Once upon a time there lived a little rabbit named Hubert. Hubert lived in a cozy little burrow under a tall oak tree. He loved his home, but sometimes late at night Hubert would hop to the top of the roots of the giant tree and would think about what the world looked like beyond his cozy burrow in the tall oak tree. One warm summer's day, Hubert was out nibbling on some fresh green leaves when a little bluebird flew overhead. "It's wonderful! It's amazing! I've never seen anything like it," she sang. What could she be talking about? Thought Hubert. He began to chase the bird as she flew through the sky. Hubert bounced off rocks and zigzagged around trees, doing his best to keep up with the bird. He wanted to see what all the fuss was about. The bird came to a halt and sat down to rest on a tree. "What is so wonderful? What is so amazing?" he asked the bird. "Oh, it's simply breathtaking," the bird chirped, taking wing once again. She took off singing loudly about the amazing things she had seen. Hubert tried to keep up with her, but soon grew tired and had to stop. With a sigh, he watched as the bird flew out of sight. Well, I might as well go home, Hubert thought. He looked around and realized he had traveled a very long ways from his burrow. Hubert began hopping in circles, looking for any sign of the tall oak tree, but he could not see it. With a nervous twitch of his nose, Hubert began hopping towards the direction he thought home would be. He traveled for what seemed like hours until he came across a dense pine forest, filled with bushes. A porcupine was eating some blackberries from the bushes. "Excuse me, but do you know where my home is? I live in a burrow under a tall oak tree," Hubert asked the porcupine. "No oak trees around here, just blackberry bushes," the porcupine responded, with a mouthful of berries. "Will you help me find my home?" Hubert asked, but the porcupine shook his head. "No can do. I have to eat all these berries before they go bad in this hot, hot sun," he told Hubert. The little rabbit continued hopping, leaving the porcupine to his berries. Then Hubert came across a big field filled with tall, yellow grass. A mother quail sat in her nest. "Excuse me," Hubert said, "but do you know where my home is? I live in a burrow under a tall oak tree." "No oak trees around here, just tall grass," the mother quail responded. "Will you help me find my home?" Hubert asked, but the mother quail shook her head. "I cannot. I have to stay here and keep my eggs cool so they will not get warm in this hot, hot sun." Hubert gave a sigh and continued to hop along. By now he was very tired and very hot. Soon Hubert came across a cave. From the cave out stepped a fox with sly-looking eyes and a fluffy tail. "Excuse me," Hubert said, "but do you know where my home is?" "Yes, I know where your home is, little rabbit," the fox said with a grin on his face. "Come with me, and I will take you there." The fox lunged at Hubert, but Hubert was much faster. He began to run, going as fast as his legs would carry him. "Come back here, little rabbit. Don't you want to go home?" the fox panted as he chased after Hubert. "I didn't tell you where I lived. You don't know where my home is," Hubert called back. The bunny ducked behind a bush, peering out at the fox as he sniffed the air. "Where are you, little rabbit? Come out," the fox snarled. Hubert shook and shivered as the fox grew closer and closer to his hiding spot. Snap! A twig snapped behind the fox. The fox gave a small yelp before running away. Hubert stayed hidden, afraid the fox would come back. "It's all right, little one. You're safe now. You can come out," a deep voice said from just beyond Hubert's bush. "Are you sure?" Hubert whispered. "I'm sure," the voice responded. Slowly he stepped out of the bush, sniffing the air to make sure the fox was gone. "There's nothing for you to fear," the voice said. Hubert turned around. Standing behind him was a tall elk with big horns and large warm eyes. "You look like you're far from home," the elk said. "I am," Hubert sighed sadly. "This morning a bluebird flew by my burrow and said that she had seen something wonderful, so I decided to follow her. But she flew too fast and I couldn't keep up," Hubert explained. "And now it's almost night and I'm still lost." The elk listened to him as he spoke. "Where do you live?" the elk asked him. "In a burrow under a tall oak tree," he responded. "I believe I know where your home is. I will take you there if you wish," the elk said. "Oh yes, please," Hubert said, jumping in circles. The tall elk smiled at the little rabbit. He bent down. "Here, jump on my back. We have quite a ways to travel, and it'll be faster if I carry you," he told Hubert. Hubert jumped onto the elk's back and curled up on his soft brown fur. The elk began walking, taking Hubert past the cave, past the tall yellow grass, and past the pine forest. As they walked, the sky grew darker and darker. "We're almost there," the elk told a very sleepy Hubert. The little rabbit yawned, nodding his head. As soon as they had reached the meadow, the elk stopped. "Why have we stopped?" asked Hubert. "This isn't my home." "No, but look," the elk said. Hubert gazed out at the field as hundreds of fireflies began lighting up the meadow. Hubert watched the fireflies glowing softly as they danced around. Looking up at the sky, there were even more fireflies flying high, high in the sky. "Wow," Hubert whispered. "There's so many of them." The elk smiled, gazing up at the stars. "It really is amazing, isn't it?" he said softly. Hubert nodded, watching the night unfurl with such wonder. Finally the elk began walking again, continuing to travel throughout the meadow until they came to a tall oak tree. "My home," Hubert said, jumping off his back and racing to the entrance of his burrow. "Thank you very much for showing me how to get home." "You're very welcome. Good night, Hubert," the elk said before making his way back to the meadow. "Good night," Hubert called after him before disappearing back into his burrow to go to bed.